COVID-19, as you know, is changing the way in which we work and the workplace environment as we know it. It's estimated we'll lose perhaps 1.6 million jobs this year alone. It's a staggering figure. At this very moment, many companies are trying to figure out how they can restructure and reposition their businesses without retrenching. Earlier this week, Media24 and the Prime Media Group announced restructuring to their publications in an effort to cut costs. Where restructuring wasn't necessary, temporary salary cuts across companies are also being implemented. Well, speaking to us about optimal ways for employers to restructure their businesses is HR specialist Penny Mkhize. Penny, good evening to you. Is it possible to know how many companies have actually implemented some kind of restructuring since the lockdown started in March?
Well, basically, I would say none right now. What we are seeing right now is a temporary reaction towards the pandemic, not necessarily putting into consideration is that we will possibly be seeing this for quite some time. The scar will be there.
And the scar's going to be there for a long time. If you're a boss, if you're a manager, if you're maybe the owner of a small, medium-sized company, how do you restructure your business in order to avoid retrenchment? It must be very difficult to do.
Well, it would be difficult to do, but it would be taking into consideration putting employees into specific tasks rather than traditional portfolios. For example, you take a financial manager. They are in charge of your auditing, your financial statements, your cost control. But if we take a portion of what a financial manager can necessarily do, let's just say auditing and just financial statements, and then possibly for another company, they substantiate their income for what they can do.
I mean, what we're going to see is an entire nation on the hustle, right?
Oh, yes, most definitely. I think right now what we are seeing is that employers contracted employees in terms of their contract that they can only work for one company. But now, because of the pandemic, we are seeing that people are almost going to lose their jobs. We are seeing right now that South Africa is facing already 3 million job losses. So how many jobs will be lost by the end of this pandemic is really, we can't really focus that. So if we can take into consideration that employers allow employees to take on more portfolios under their belt for the current company and other companies.
Okay, I mean, so you're a worker. What do and you want to make sure you've got some income coming in. What do you do? Where do you start? You've got to try and make yourself indispensable to one boss and try and find another one at the same time.
Oh, yes, most definitely. Looking at your traditional portfolio is really not going to help. But by making yourself indispensable, by taking in more responsibilities and trying to spread yourself, not necessarily spreading yourself thin, because you still have to be able to execute your current position, but necessarily within your scope of work, taking in what you can and doing more for the company.
Penny Mkhize, HR specialist, to appreciate the time. Thank you very much indeed.